Okay, so we are going to talk about, with some real clients and suppliers here on the stage, some of the challenges that they faced, some of the opportunities they see. And this is a very interactive session, so I'm actually going to be wandering around the audience along with the other folks with microphones. So if you have questions about challenges, opportunities, maybe some real stories or things you would like to share as well, this is really a session for everyone. We just have them here to kick things off, and we will certainly welcome any questions from the audience, even some comments with limited time on the comments. So to get started here, what I'd like to do, are you guys wired up at all? No, we just have the one mic. All right, so what I want to do, we're going to have you introduce yourselves, just sort of go around, tell us who you are, what you do, and how long you've been involved with mobile.
Hi everybody, I'm Alistair. I run OnDevice Research. We're a 3-year-old company providing mobile panel, so helping people to get good quality respondents for mobile research. I've been in mobile for, how old am I? Since I've been working, 10 years. And I've been in mobile research for 8 of those.
Fantastic.
Hi, I'm Manoj. I work in Millward Brown. I manage operations for AMAP, that is Africa, Asia Pacific and Middle East. As regards to mobile research, we started working a couple of years back, and over the years now we have tried to reach to some, take it to a logical conclusion now.
Hi everyone, my name is Ananda and I'm from Adidas, based in Singapore. I've been working in Adidas for about 7 years, and being here from yesterday until today, it's really an eye-opener because my background is not research and I don't do research directly, so I'm the user. So it's really an eye-opener for me.
Hi, Geoffrey. I run global sales for IT and cloud solutions for Huawei. For the people who don't know who Huawei are, we're probably the biggest vendor in the world now to mobile operators, but we're not too focused on this more specialized area of business to do with market research and mobile advertising for operators. So maybe I can give some input on what the operators and the big vendors are thinking, but it's also a learning experience for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sumi and I work for Google in Malaysia. My job is, I'm called an industry strategist, and basically my job is to look at insights. All of you think of Google as an advertising platform, but all of you use it every day, and imagine if I can put that data together, not knowing who you are, and build some sort of model of how you are considering information online. So that's my job, and I work with a lot of companies in Malaysia specifically to do that. I used to run a mobile company focused on location-based services, so I hope I can share some knowledge of what I have on that side as well with you today.
Terrific. Well, since you have the microphone, we'll kick things off over here. And my first question really is I guess, geared towards the clients, and that is, what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities for mobile marketing research within your organization? And how might it help you? What makes mobile marketing research attractive to you?
A good question, and I think how I would take this is, if you look at what the consumers are doing, so I look at what consumers are searching for, and I can tell what consumers are searching for based on the device that they use. So the 3 devices that we look at in Google is desktop, tablet devices, and mobile, smartphone devices. So we look at the trends over the last 2 years, and this is on multiple markets. Search query growth on mobile platforms is nearly 10 times what desktop query growth is. So consumers are searching on tablet and mobile devices all the time. And I'll give you another point. On desktop searches, during holiday periods, our volume drops. But on mobile and tablet, there's no drop in volume. People are on all the time. Now, the challenges is in Malaysia, for example, most companies don't even have a mobile site to capture this audience. So they are searching on Google search, getting a website. People are clicking on those ads or clicking on the organic search results, but there's no optimized site for mobile. And so it's a missed opportunity, I feel, when in fact we know that consumers are on all the time and it's growing fast. So just to give you a perspective on what the consumer in Malaysia and in some of our markets. And for example, in Australia and Korea, mobile searches are higher than desktop already. So that's going to happen in Malaysia in the next 5 years, based on the rate of growth.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from Huawei's point of view, we're constantly trying to figure out ways to help our customers make more money. And when I say customers, obviously the mobile operators, Maxis, Digi, Cellcom, such like. So we're building bigger and faster networks for them, giving them more and more tools, but they're still constantly looking for ways to find a new revenue stream. If mobile market research is a way for them to make some more money out of data that already exists within their network, which we're providing to them, I mean, operators now have got a lot greater access to near real-time analytical data. So information on where a subscriber is, what they're doing, what they're browsing, where they're going to, where they've come from. I mean, the level of information is very, very high, but they're not really using that particularly very much. If that can be used for mobile market research and the operator can make some money out of it, then they'll be very happy to talk to all of you.
And that's in passive data mostly, right?
Yeah, customers don't typically know they're providing this information. Customers know to a certain extent, so when you download a new application on your phone, Facebook, for example, it may say to you, please, do you mind giving us access to your location information or to your phone book? But they don't realize they're actually just giving Facebook complete access to their location at all times and access to all 1,000 contacts within their phone book as well. That information is sitting there, it's residing, it's being data warehoused, and it's typically only being used for specific application developers and for the mobile telco's internal purposes at the moment. If that can be used as a potential revenue stream for the operator to be given to other market research companies, I can't see no reason why they wouldn't be interested in talking to you.
Fascinating.
Well, I guess from my side, basically in terms of the opportunities in here, it's just that seeing things from a different perspective, completely from a brand new user, for instance. Like, I'm used to just to receive the data. I don't know anything about, because I'm not the one who's actually briefing the agency. But from my perspective, basically, this kind of mobile research is a very good opportunity to actually complement the conventional one. This is the one that most probably some of the clients doesn't really know, like that the result is actually can be quite instant as well in terms of the quality and also especially in terms of the cost investment as well. Because from the client side, what we are being sort of like told as well by the management, basically, what will be the return on investment, for instance. And seeing and the discussion that we had actually yesterday from the workshop as well, that the cost is actually lower than the conventional one. So these are the one that most probably can entice the client side a little bit more in terms of the opportunities of the mobile marketing research.
Okay. So we've had a bit of point of view from our client side here. And I'm wondering on our provider side here as well, do you think that those opportunities are valid, and do you see others that maybe they're missing?
And these are pretty valid, I think, from the agency side, my perspective is slightly different, What I think, over the conventional benefits like in the moment and the passive side and other side, the other benefit, which is major, especially in emerging markets, like talk about Malaysia, India, where the data quality is a major issue. I think mobile can play a significant role there. What we feel is, currently most, at least 80-85%, if not more, is still face-to-face paper and pencil projects. This is an opportunity to leapfrogging from paper and pencil straight to mobile. And when I say that it improves data quality, is primarily because of its self-filled approach. Currently, we are facing huge issues in terms of interviewer profile, and interviewer bias is always the problem in the assisted format. The other important thing is the reach. I did a study where I realized that in normal scenario, say in city like Delhi, we don't cover more than 34% for this because of law and order problem, because of gated community, because of whatsoever is the issue. The entire research happens in these 34% of market, which is absolutely an issue here. So I see, I'm just giving you a different perspective. While the passive opportunity, that the way gentleman said, and the other is in the moment. It's an opportunity where we can actually can give the data on a real-time basis to the client. These are the obvious benefits which we find in mobile scenario.
Excellent. Alistair, I know you've conducted hundreds of thousands of interviews and things on device. And what do you see as some of the opportunities maybe clients are missing out on? What do you see as some opportunities for mobile research that they might not be seeing?
I think a lot of the stuff has been talked about with passive, and there's a lot of things have been talking about in the moment research, but the fundamental in this region of the world is that actually mobile research will do exactly what online research did in the developed countries. And so if we look at our panels if we take, for example, Indonesia, we've done quite a lot of calibration exercises. We can see that we're pretty much comparable with face-to-face, yet we're probably a tenth of the cost. And so actually we make projects possible which weren't possible beforehand, and we get to be able to answer questions and do work for people that wasn't possible beforehand simply because of the cost and the time implications. So if you look at, I could say, examples have been told to me of the cost of a face-to-face interview in Indonesia is something like between $10 and $20. We're between $1 and $3, and it gets returned in a week rather than 2 or a month.
So speed of delivery and significant cost saving.
Significant cost savings, significant. But the data quality comes there as well because you're not having a biased or potentially biased interviewer being in front of somebody. It's all self-completion. So the data quality should improve, the speed should improve, and the cost will definitely improve.
I'm curious if the audience has any thoughts about opportunities for marketing research using mobile that you have in your mind, something maybe you've done that's a little unique, or an opportunity, particularly on the client side. Any clients here? We've got a few. I know you don't really want to raise your hands up, but I know that some of you here have maybe not used mobile before, and some of you have used mobile. Are there some folks here who have done some studies on mobile, and what was the main opportunity it solved for you? Anyone? No one here has done a study on mobile. Wow, we have opportunities then. Okay, so we'll move on to the next area of questioning, and this has to do with the challenges. So the other side of the coin from opportunity is challenge. And you've certainly had a lot of in-market experience with 8 years in mobile in around the world.
Previously, I was analysing mobile.
Okay.
I've had 3 years of actually doing mobile research.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about some of the major hurdles and challenges you faced in any area of mobile marketing research. And you might even address a few of them. It could be technology, it could be adoption, it could be panel, any of these areas.
I'll be brief so I don't hog the mic.
Well, take your time.
Basically, I think most people have got over the fact that people can take surveys on mobile devices, and the technology is very much in place, and there's lots of great solutions out there. The biggest hurdle for us, we've asked lots of our customers about this again and again, and what comes up in every meeting is, what does this data mean? Is it representative? Is it meaningful? Is it fit for purpose? And we have to go through a lot of hand-holding with our clients at the moment, showing what our data means in terms of who are the groups that we can get access to, really under-promising and showing to people and being very honest that this is not nationally representative data at the moment. Not everybody is using the mobile internet. However, it is representative of those people 16 to 34 or 16 to 55, whatever it happens to be in a particular country. And really showing this to our clients is, I think, our biggest hurdle at the moment, and something which we're spending a lot of time trying to walk our clients through.
When it comes to the barrier and similar sort of things, I would say that there's, when it comes to technology and solutions, it's largely a tick. Since we've been working for close to 2 years on this space, the biggest bottleneck, as Alistair just said, is a respondent acquisition plan, and that essentially is panel. And what we have realized, and that is what he said that, and he precisely did the same thing yesterday, and he actually took me that what he can actually help us. But at this moment, this is the biggest issue what we feel is, which is stopping us to take this to the commercialization level. The other thing is, as you have said, that is attraction among the both internal as well as external. It is still an unknown area. People have lots of apprehensions. People talk more about barriers rather than opportunity. So it's, I think, the forum like this, we have to take similar, sessions internally, externally, showing case studies, just to educate guys that mobile works and it works beautifully.
So how do we prove that?
What we have done is we have done a series of pilots, to both to check the technology solutions and also creating a learning document, and that's what we are taking to the clients, that to answer their apprehensions. Many of the clients feel that mobile is shallow, it doesn't give the value or the information, depth information what I get from traditional research. Our answer to this is that mobile is complementary to traditional research. It is not something which works in isolation, and that is we are proving by having a solution around this. So like our the modified or the new solutions revolves around the same, that we have broken down our traditional tracking model into different modules, and this is what we are trying to do, and see that how we can actually use mobile in this space. So we are modifying our solutions, we are creating learning documents, and this is what we are trying to prove that it works.
A lot of research on research, and I think at these conferences, we've seen a lot of presentations about research on research. And I'm wondering, is there some real-world cases? I've actually done a couple of studies, mobile, very centric to mobile, but it was more in ethnography. The big benefit that I was able to offer my client is we didn't have to fly all around the world with a team of people and video cameras, et cetera, going into people's homes and living there for a long time. And we were able to turn it back very quickly. The challenges we ran into were things like self-editing and things like shaky cameras. And that was the primary challenges we ran into. But I'm just curious, does anyone else have a study you've done that's beyond research on research? Someone done a study that they'd like to share with us? Well, think about that. I've got a couple more I've done as well, but primarily my world has been in ethnography and qualitative, and this has totally changed the world of ethnography and qualitative because of the video, the photo, and the ability to share dialogue.
We've done about 4 million surveys on mobile now, and this isn't tests at all. This is like real, genuine business for people who've taken that leap and they've gone into it, and there's a general fear from people to do it. We quite often really have to push people into doing the first project, but once they've done that, it becomes business as normal, and it gets them far superior results for one reason or another. And what I think will happen as soon as everybody just makes that leap, they'll start to realise that it's good, it makes sense, and it makes their job much better. And then they'll just start doing it as business as normal. And we do this for many advertising companies, many research companies, and it's just normal for them now.
Mm-hmm. And you're working mostly with the direct client or with agencies or both?
It's about half and half. We don't do analysis of the data, but a lot of in-house teams now analyse the data and make sense of it. So people in Motorola have a dashboard of feeds of data coming in, which helps them to understand device satisfaction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's business as normal and makes them make better marketing decisions.
Fantastic. Some challenges.
Well, I think the gentleman hit the nail on the head, basically. It's the fear of what we don't know from the client side. Definitely, it's the challenge, the biggest challenge for us. This mobile research marketing, we've sort of like never heard it before. We always get used to the conventional one. So I guess from our side as well, to manage the expectation from both sides, client side and also agency side, for instance. Some of the objective that we want, most probably client or what client actually want, agencies sometimes sort of like take it in a wrong way and interpret it in also in a wrong way. So that's That needs to be cleared out from the first time. And also saying that, because what I've heard as well in terms of this mobile research marketing, it's the time that is actually, or the duration that actually can be done throughout the panelists as well. Most probably maximum is like about 10 minutes. So the quality of the data, the outcome itself, it's then can be quite questionable from our side as well. Is it effective or not?
You think a shorter survey is more questionable than a longer survey?
These are the things that we're still having a big question mark. Which one is actually more effective? But then I learned as well that it depends in terms of the question itself, the quality of the question. If you want to be focused, then this is the device or the platform or the avenue that we can actually use. So I guess, again, mentioning from the previous comment that I have, this is actually a complementary one. That's what I feel in terms of using mobile marketing research. It cannot be the primary one so far. Maybe towarding 2018, since the pattern is going there, it can be the primary one. But so far, my take, at this moment of time, it can be only a complementary one. That's what I feel.
So you don't see it filling a gap on standalone anywhere in your company at this point?
It's filling the gap, actually.
It's just filling a gap?
Yes, currently.
Because one area that we haven't even touched on much is something like mystery shopping. And you guys have outlets, right?
Yes.
You have, what, 300 stores or so?
Yes.
And are you shopping those outlets now? Are you evaluating the service in them?
As in like?
I don't know, just are you testing the service or monitoring the conditions in those stores?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so do you see mobile as being something that might replace your existing methodology in that?
I believe in looking at the presentation before, there's some device actually already been created, such as like the AC Nielsen presentation that I've heard or that I listened. That device most probably can help the retail industry to actually act a little bit more aggressive in a way. It can be done. But the thing is as well, from the side of the company that is actually quite huge, this kind of sort of like step, it's quite a big step for us being a conservative company as well. And it can be done, but most probably, again, people are still seeing that the conventional one is still going to be the primary one, qualitative one, most probably. But then again, if the agency can actually making sure to us that this one, the qualitative one, the quality of the numbers and the result is actually quite credible, then maybe it can be a game changer as well.
How many people does an agency have to convince in an organization such as Adidas?
How many agency?
How many people within your company does someone like Alistair have to convince?
Very good point. Well, it depends. I mean, like for us, basically, again, down to managing expectation, and the most effective one, the most systematic one as well. It doesn't take a lot actually, but it needs to be the right one. That's the only thing. The one that needs to know what our core is, because I worked with so many agencies before. And when I brief them in terms of creative brief or ad brief or research brief, they take it as it is, but they sort of like interpret it in a very wrong way. So at the end of the day, the objective is not achieved. So these are the things that we need, or agencies and client needs to be very clear at the very first moment of truth, basically.
And I know you're fairly new to the idea of mobile research, and frankly, mobile research is still fairly new to the world. Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of research agencies have sort of said, okay, here's your traditional, here's what you asked for, mm-hmm. because a lot of times these briefs are prescriptive.
Yeah.
They're saying, we want this is how we want it done, and this is how we like to eat it. Mm-hmm. Whereas some mobile providers or mobile research providers are coming and saying, yes, we can do that, consider this as well. Or this is a complement to that. Has anyone approached you with this?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's the thing. That's the opportunities then.
Okay. Challenges you faced?
Well,
or you might face.
None so far.
Or you might face, yes.
I guess one of my questions is, are you cooperating with the telcos at all at the moment? Or are you just using mobile internet as a medium to get that market research information from the subscriber?
I used to manage a product which was taking the back-end data from mobile operators, and there's a reason I'm not doing it anymore. I think is the simple explanation. it was one of the worst experiences I think I've had.
Must have been a bad operator. Wasn't one of my customers. Because I guess one of the problems, I guess, would be where the basis point starts from. So if you don't know much information about the people you're getting research from in the first place, then you've got quite a large period initially of trying to figure out who that person is in the first place before that information could be relevant or not. One advantage of working with the mobile operator, they're getting a lot better on knowing who their subscribers are. The one thing a mobile phone is ubiquitous, generally at a global level. Now, degrees of technology vary. So in the West and developed nations, smartphones are over 50% at the moment. Whereas in developing nations, they may be a lot lower, 30 to 40%. But amongst a specific demographic, then it could be 100%. Depending on what demographic you're actually looking to approach. So operators are getting a lot more information about who their subscribers are, how old they are, how wealthy they are, where they're going, what they're browsing for. And if you can target that information as a base point, then getting additional information on top of that should be a lot more focused. But if that's not even being explored at the moment, and that relationship is not even being touched at the moment, then that could be a way to move forward.
Actually, the guy to your right might have something on that, but this guy right here actually has a point. So.
Thank you. So, operator data, I think, is a really exciting area at the moment, and at Kantar, we've certainly been talking to several different operators, and I just, I suppose, want to put to you what I see some of the challenges are. So, one of the key challenges at the moment is that one operator's set of data really isn't sufficient, and we would like to see multiple operators' data being put together. So I don't know whether any of the operators are talking to each other to try and work together in that regard. And then the second bit I'd say is that, of course, operator data only covers transactions on network. It's not covering off-network transactions. And then thirdly, and final point is, some of the expectations of the value around that data that we're seeing from operators is very high, which makes it difficult to just to make that initial step, I guess, of exploring, especially for some of the smaller agencies or researchers or clients.
Yeah, it makes sense. The one thing all operators are trying to do at the moment is not turn into a dumb pipe. They're all scared of Google, actually. They're all terrified of Google. That Google and Apple will just turn every mobile operator into a dumb data stream. If you can approach them and give them some additional value and allow them to add value to their relationship with their customers, then they're always going to be interested in talking to you. One way you could look at maybe is talking to groups of operators. So like in Asia Pacific, Axiata Group has got an operator in each country. Singtel is very dominant in this region as well. In Europe, I guess Vodafone and T-Mobile. At a group level, they're going to be very interested in trying to figure out more and more information about their subs and how to utilize that relationship more and more.
It's interesting though, from our perspective, the operators are actually our biggest customers of passive data because they realise how many holes there are in their own data. And the fact is, from country to country, they can only see between 25% and 40% of what's happening on mobile devices that they're providing the pipe towards. So mobile phones are ubiquitous, but unfortunately operators have a far from holistic view of what's happening.
No, agree completely. Subscriber analytics is the big drive at the moment for every operator, every tier one operator. They need to know more and more about what their subscribers are doing and why they're doing it. At the moment, their business case justification is terrible. It's pie in the sky stuff.
And they're in trouble because their cash cows are going through the floor.
So they can see what they're doing, but again, why, I think, is something that might be hard to answer with the passive.
It's linking up the technical divisions and the marketing divisions. They don't tend to work very well with each other. So companies like Huawei will go in and sell $500 million worth of network capacity for LTE, for 4G, because the marketing people say we need to have it. We don't know why we need to have it, but we know we need to have it. So it works well for us. Now they're trying to figure out, well, for future upgrades, we need to have a solid business case. So we need to know who the subscriber is, why they're using it, where they're using it, where they're going to, everything. And that information is very key at the moment with all tier 1 operators. They're trying to figure out who their subscribers are.
So on Google's point here, the dumb tube comment I thought was interesting. But
I won't go there. But
what are some of your challenges, and what do you see, particularly on following on the conversation we have here about all the big data that's out there? You guys are masters of big data.
Okay.
I would think.
I'll come back to that one. But just to answer one of your questions, your one question, we've had discussions with StarHub in Singapore, and they are basically now getting into the game of providing analytics data about location to retailers. And they are hoping that retailers will basically buy this data from them about how consumers are basically moving around in retail spaces, in large retail spaces across, for example, Orchard Street. And so they're starting to get in that game, and I think they see the value of all this data sitting there. I think the point I want to make is that doing business today is fantastic because you have all these touch points. And I think every company today should look inside of them. You have all this data. I mean, the challenge is obviously taking data to knowledge. But the fact is that more people are online, more people are on digital devices. You are able to now touch these people and capture that information. So the challenge is obviously to kind of draw those insights out. I want to give you a perspective. I think when we look at a consumer, we shouldn't differentiate between mobile and the fixed experience. I think the consumer today is going between devices like crazy. And you need to look at a consumer and you need to look at how he's engaging with information around him as one. I want to say that I don't think the difference on how a consumer uses a mobile and a fixed device is different. I'll give you an example. I did a study so think of Google as a big questionnaire. When you put something into Google search, think of Google search as a questionnaire. So we are not doing samples. We have real-time data of billions of, I would say 500 million people. I would say maybe 3 billion people, half the population, who are putting data into our networks on a daily basis. So I looked at, for example, how people search for data on mobile versus desktop devices. I can tell you for a fact there's no difference in what they search for. Yes, there may be more location-centric searches on mobile, branch location, for example, but the top 20 queries are the same. The length of the queries are the same. So if you think of a consumer today and you're doing research about the consumer behavior, whether it's on mobile or a fixed experience, there's no difference, in my view, based on the data that we have collected and based on the data in Malaysia, at least, in terms of how I've analyzed it. One reason this could be so is a mobile device today is smart. Large screen, great keyboard, it's an extension. So I think it's important for us not to overcomplicate things as well. I think all consumers today are on the mobile device. It's an extension of what they do on a daily basis. I'm not seeing much of a difference in terms of behavior on either a desktop for doing research or on a mobile. And you guys have the touch points. If you're a company, you have a mobile site, you have a desktop site. There's a lot of data that sits in there that tells you what a consumer is doing. He's hitting the first page, not going to the second page. He's clicking on a product but not finishing up to a thank you page. Start thinking about your touch points and the data you have. That, to me, is pretty much the first step.
So dealing with the existing or passive data, in this case, things that are already there, what kind of things do you see complementing that when it comes to helping a client with improving a customer experience or new product development or creating new marketing messages?
I mean, you have to make some sort of inference in terms of, you need to know your consumer generally. I mean, you need to know what they're looking for, how they've been looking for you, and you've done that traditionally anyway. You have all this data. So I think it's really, understanding your consumer well, forming a few opinions or a few ideas of what the consumer is looking for, and really testing it all the time. I mean, you can never tell what a consumer is going to do, but you can test it now to scale because of digital. And you have to try. You have to keep trying new ways of reaching the consumer. I think that's really the best way to kind of overcome this. There's no way I can find. I don't think I can assume what a consumer is going to do. Mm-hmm. It has to be trial and error.
The conversation we were having before lunch was about data integration. We've heard some terms here today about data integration or integration of different sources of data, different types of data, mobile with others, to your point earlier. And also the idea of a specialized data scientist, I think it was, or was it? Can you elaborate on that? What do you view as integration of data, say, between a carrier, a Google, and someone asking direct questioning? How do you marry those three together?
Well, I think the point we made earlier was that you need to take the consumer view of this. I mean, you need to put the consumer and the consumer need centric to what you want to achieve. You need to know what you want to achieve with your consumer, basically. And then look at the kind of information that can support what you want to achieve. And it may come from a mobile kind of research, it may come from an online research, whatever. But I think a data scientist is really someone who understands consumer behavior. He has some idea of where the consumer is going. And that insight cannot come from someone external. You need to know that because you are running your business. You know your consumer. We can tell you some amount of what a consumer is doing. But you really need to take that data, mine it, and use it to your benefit. Don't rely, I mean, obviously, you need to get help and support. But if you don't ask the right questions and help your partner ask the right questions about your consumer, you're not going to get anywhere anyway. So,
how about your role? Do you guys have a data scientist on staff, or several? Or I'm just curious.
Huawei, possibly on the terminal side. On the handphone side, we're making a big play in 2013. So I'm sure there's a lot of market research coming from the handphone side of the business. The network side, no, none at all. Our relationship is solely with the carrier, not with the end user, the subscriber themselves. Mm-hmm. One point difference is the difference between fixed and mobile. I agree that the amount of information and the type of information should be pretty similar. I guess the one big difference, though, especially in this part of the world, is the primary form of internet access in developing nations is the mobile phone. We've seen that especially in Indonesia, India, sub-Saharan Africa. There is no laptops. There are no desktop computers. I mean, in fact, desktop computers went down in sales last year for the first time ever. So if you're not getting that information from a mobile phone at the moment, with that added dimension of geographical information, then you're not going to get it from anywhere else.
I'm curious, are you able to tap into broadband data as well, or is it strictly on network?
Broadband as in fixed?
Yeah, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you just remove that geographical element. Mm-hmm. Well, even on Wi-Fi, we can pick up the geographical aspect of that. That's not a problem. So as long as they're a mobile subscriber, whether they're 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, Wi-Fi, we can generally pick up a very precise location. And in fact, if you mix all of those things together, it's got to the point now, there's technologies coming on the market where we can track a subscriber to the nearest 2 or 3 meters in a shopping mall.
Is that scary?
You decide. I'm fine with it. But we can pretty much know, or we can give information on where a subscriber is in a mall or in a car park down to a few meters by combining all of that information.
But I think, think about this perspective. We can tell the location based on these networks, amazing. But based on those locations, we are collecting information about consideration, what people are considering based on the location. Merge those two together from a brand perspective, from an Adidas perspective, imagine the value of that insight. And that's what you need to try to achieve. How are consumers behaving based on this location sensitivity, coupled with what they are searching for, looking for, or considering from a brand, merge that together, I think is a brilliant. If you can get that sorted out, I think you can find a lot about your consumer.
Just to add that point as well, maybe you should offer an integrated solution. Maybe the mobile marketing research needs to work together with, say, digital marketing agency, for instance. So it's not just about research, but also a solution in terms of how you want to put an action point about it. So then it's an end-to-end solution for the clients as well, which is very good for us in a way.
Excellent point. I mean, we talked earlier, I think yesterday in the workshop, it was like someone came up with the idea of you could you could have an app where you could dress yourself or see yourself in Adidas clothes, right?
Yes.
And there are marketing apps, a lot of apps for selling stuff.
Yes.
Traditionally, I think there's always, well, historically, there's always been a giant no man's land between marketing research and marketing. How do you see apps and mobile changing that? And what are your thoughts on that? Is that a good thing for you? Is it a bad thing? Is it?
I think it's a very good point that a lot of you actually who participate in the workshop give a suggestion in terms of building community, for instance. Since yesterday's topic, for all of you that was not there yesterday, is actually about how we can engage women consumer, for instance. And the suggestion that was made is actually to sustain this women as a consumer is to build a community within them. The one thing that I find, or I found it myself, that is actually very useful is actually by building this community, there's a circle of trust in the women. And women does work in the word of mouth, and they're becoming a brand advocate once they trust the brand. So this application is the one that we can track and we can use actually to see if this woman is actually being engaged. So it's not just about research that they actually put themselves and shared with the other women, but also it's sort of like a state of mind in terms of what they want. So it's a good tools and avenue for women actually, for that matters.
From a researcher perspective here, what do you think about the blending of, say, marketing and marketing research through mobile device? So, like Foursquare, for instance, if you're going to get that coupon because you're there, location-wise, you have to tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here.
Using app or device like this, it all depends on what are your priorities like. As I said, that it plays a very important role if your focus is on the passive side of the data collection and then interpret it in a meaningful manner. And if your priority is more on data collection part, is altogether app plays an altogether different role. And so it all depends on the priority that how do you want to use app in your studies.
Alistair?
We're just about to launch a project for a very exciting audio company that has a ton of data about what people are listening to on phones, on computers, and so on. And it's fantastic because they've got millions and millions and millions of users, but they have no understanding as to the context in which these people are listening to this audio. And so actually by putting a mobile diary together and taking common IDs and linking together the big data with the contextual data from mobile diaries, you get to really understand, what do we call I think we called it the sound of big data, I think is what we're going to call it anyway. We're taking it to a conference anyway. But it's really fun because you can basically understand, by somebody checking in each time they listen to audio, you can understand who they're with, you can understand why they've done it, you can understand so much more detail about the context where they are. If you then link that to the big data which they've got about everything, then suddenly all of this stuff comes to life. Whereas previously they've got some PhD wading through this data, which is fantastic because they understand what people are listening to, but they have no understanding of why.
How do you do that in aggregate? I mean, I would think that, especially with something like music, right, where you have so many different tastes, how do you do that in aggregate, stitching the data together without knowing that's the same respondent?
It's common ID. You just have to have a link, a hook between the two data sets, and then it's pretty simple.
Okay, so it is the same respondent or the same person.
You take a sample of people to do the mobile diary, right? You can't do it on, they have tons and tons of data on it. You actually just take, it's a fairly decent sample of a few thousand people, but you get a common ID between the server data and the diary data and then put it together.
Okay. I want to just look around the room, see if there's anyone who has a thought, comment, question at this point. Anyone? Yes, over here. You got some? You got someone over there? Okay. Here we go. It's a race. And your name?
I'm Arman Margarian. I'm from Microsoft, from States. I was here yesterday as well, and since we're talking about barriers and opportunities, I was just listening from the client side and provider side. What are the barriers? Actually, one of the barriers that is an opportunity is how you merge the data. We have to understand that from the market research perspective, this industry has a shaped form of collecting the data that explains the consumer's behavior. They used to do it during the longer surveys, face-to-face, and they understand how to interpret the data. So from one other side, mobile is now giving new opportunities, but the data, although from the Google perspective, the search is different, but the data collected during the mobile survey is actually different because of the number of reasons. One is not fully representative, we all agreed that. Second, the behavioral pattern that data has been collected, especially in a passive mode, is also different because the user, the customer, surveyor, wasn't in the survey mode, and we know that the objects behave differently when they observed. So the big barrier is how do you marry these data, because they are of a different nature. How do you combine this? How do you add the mobile new gathered data into the way you used to do surveys? Another barrier is that, as we've seen from the previous presentations, the mobile behavior isn't settled yet, because we saw that there are a lot of people are downloading apps and removing apps, because mobile is new to consumers as well. So the behavioral pattern isn't settled as well. So do the analysis on something that isn't settled also different. So to me, the biggest opportunity is to find the ways to actually marry this mobile research, which is definitely a composite. It's not it cannot, today, I don't think it can be taken as a point of full research. It's a composite part of a full research, and understand how this composite data can be joined into the existing data. And to do that, to me, one of the things that came to my mind is to actually do a similar type of surveys, mobile and the traditional way, and see how this data maps and find the patterns in that. And that will give us an idea how this data can be projected. And that's, to me, one of the important opportunities, because everyone comes from one side. I mean, consumers are from one side, technology providers, they do their piece, but no one is actually looking at holistic picture that the clients need, because clients need a holistic view of a behavioral pattern, which is consisted from a mobile, from the regular behavior. So we need these integrators to actually join this data. And the first step to do that is understand how the data gathered in a mobile way projects into the data collected using regular surveys. That's the first step to me.
Thank you. Good point. Thank you. We had another question over there, Jasper? Yep. Question, comment?
I'm Armin. I'm sorry, but we're from the same company, so we're going to take some more time. But yeah, I think my colleague, I'm going to complete what Arman just said. And from the solutions provider's perspective, I believe there is before even talking about mobile, I want to talk a little bit about usage of technology in market research industry. Not too long ago, about a year ago, we did a research within a market research company about the usage of technology in different fields. And we're comparing how market research industry uses technology in comparison to other industries like finance, education, medical. And I was really surprised to see, so we actually broke them down into 4 categories: IT-driven, IT automated, IT agnostic, and completely not aware, not using IT. And I was surprised to see that the only worse industry was the education industry. Doing, market research was somewhere in between of not using technology and in between of aware of technology. So And we all know mobile market is a technology. You have to have some software skills. You have to, you have to know technology to be able to succeed, to write something, to create an application which meets the purpose. So, but I think a big gap, because the technology evolution didn't wait until the market research industry caught up with the usage of it. So, and it jumped with the evolution of smartphones. So I think what we're missing here is a set of standards and protocols which can be used to help building mobile applications, because it's an open market. So there is a need for mobile applications. We see that there is really need of robust mobile applications. But from the other hand, our demand doesn't even, they don't even know what kind of applications they need.
So chicken and egg.
Chicken and egg.
Okay.
So, yeah, so in order to be able to supply good quality applications, we need to have some standards, protocols. So I encourage IT solutions providers to maybe create, maybe as part of the scope of this association or maybe another association, just to gather and come up with a set of standards which will in effect drive the cost of writing more applications down. Because if someone has to write an application from scratch, he has to do everything from scratch. Right. There is no, yeah, so
well, thank you very much.
That's another objective.
Okay. We're running out of time a little bit. Thank you for that, Ray. What I want to do is just sort of hit our top few ideas you might have. So here we are back at our clients and our suppliers. And on the supplier side, if you could offer any advice to the client, let's say you're able to say to them, gee, client, if you could just see this part of this thing, this is the one or two things or three things you need to know about mobile. Yeah, what do you need to know as a client? Here's, you have clients here who are interested, never done it. What would you say to them?
Well, define the problem that you're trying to fix, obviously, and then go to a provider who's done this a few times so that they can walk you through the process. You need technology, you need panel, and you need know-how. And if you can have all three of those things, then you'll be able to get a good quality study.
Simple enough?
You know, my suggestion and advice is that the change of mindset is required from the conventional long questionnaire. They need to defocus from the 40 minutes an hour long questionnaire and understand the value of KPIs. There are benefits of mobile research, and yes, you know, nobody is saying that it is perfect medium. You know, it does have its own limitation, but it does have very strong benefits as well. So we should focus on that. The other is that, as the lady said, that there is a fear of unknown. You know, it will never go unless we start doing something. So the people should not mind experimenting the things. You know, co-create the things with agencies, and I'm sure that it will benefit the community.
Okay, on the other side of the coin, from the client perspective, what is it you would like your suppliers to come to you with that will convince you, or people in your organization, what is it you really need to know, and how would you express that to them or to others in the audience? Here's what I really have to have, the one or two, three things that I have to have.
I guess three things. Managing expectations is the number one. I guess both sides of the client side and also agency side, it needs to be aligned from the very first moment. Number two, most probably, is return on investment. In terms of what we're investing needs to be also equal in terms of the outcome. And the number three, most probably the one that I mentioned before, if you can actually provide integrated solution for us as well. Not just about a research, but also it's about an action point as well. Because yes, we need to know our consumer, but it's good to know if there's somebody outside there who can actually give us more insights in terms of what's going on in the outside industry as well to us. So that's the three most important points from our side, most probably.
Terrific.
I guess it's taken 5 or 6 years for mobile advertising to start maturing within operators. So most operators I know in this region have got a mobile advertising and mobile marketing department that's specifically focused on working with agencies on that area. If you can approach them and start talking to them about why mobile market research would be to their benefit as well, and have that two-way dialogue with the subscriber instead of just a one-way dialogue, they'd be interested. And I guess one big thing is you've got an instant way to incentivize the subscriber as well. Do this market research and you get, I don't know, an extra 1 megabyte of downloads or another 100 free text messages or something, but you have a way of instantly gratifying the subscriber as well. That two-way dialogue should be there fairly easily.
Excellent.
Well, I would take the point from, I think Google is a supplier. I don't think we are on the client side. So my job is generally working with marketers to sell our platforms. And I can tell you for a fact, looking at that perspective, and looking at the demand side. So if anyone's going to do market research, big companies who have a big revenue potential to reach a consumer in a targeted manner will probably get this research done. And they're not doing it. And I believe that, I think there's a lack of knowledge, one, but it's leadership. There's no doubt the consumer is digital, he's on the mobile phone. I think as marketers, we need to basically believe that we need to find more information about them. I don't think there's enough leadership being shown by the industry to change that. Agencies go back with the same kind of strategy on print, reach your consumer on print, on TV, and do the same thing over and over again. We need to change that, because if we don't, then there's no need for research if brands don't believe consumers are on mobile. And that change is not going to happen from agencies or marketers outside, can't happen from Google. People inside these big brands need to change. They need to feel that their consumers are mobile, and they need to understand them better, and work with companies that are here providing that insight. You have to do it, if not, you're being left behind.
Excellent. I think it's interesting you view yourself as a supplier more than as a client. We at other MRMW conferences, of course, Paul McDonald, we've had him, which is doing the survey side. And do you see in your area of dealing with big data, do you see yourself as a supplier of that?
Right, and it's amazing. Some of the big wins we've had in the region in the last couple of months have been purely insights driven. I'll give you a perspective. 60 or 70% of our slides that we present to customers today is all about insights on what consumers are doing. We don't put an ask right till the last slide, and that tells you as much how much information we have on consumer behavior on these different devices. So it's a big change for us. We don't charge for this data. But there's so much out there that's showing that consumers are on this platform. And it's a big thing with Google at the moment to drive with insights. That's really what we're doing today.
Anyone scared by that? I hope not, because good competition is always welcome in the industry. I want to thank our panelists. Thank you for the audience input as well.